Catherine. Welcome to my making adventure. Today is a special video where I'm going to share with you everything that I knit or crocheted in 2024. It's a bit later than some people have gotten their videos out, but I think I have 3 pretty good excuses. One of them is 5, one of them is 3, and one of them is a little baby. So, and I'm also probably gonna have to film in bits and pieces throughout the day today. So we'll see what we can get done as we go. The first thing that I finished in before I start talking about items, I was gonna talk about just overall. I have some notes here. In 2024, I made 21 items. 10 of those were garments. Of those 10 garments, 4 of them were adult sized and 6 of them were child or baby sized. So all of the 4 adult garments were sweaters. With the child garments, 1 was like a onesie, 1 was a dress, 1 was a t-shirt, and then 3 of them were sweaters. So that gives the 6 child sized garments and 4 adult sized garments. The other 11 items were 2 hats, 1 for an adult, 1 for a baby, 4 pairs of socks, 1 adult, 1 toddler, and 2 baby. And the other accessories that I made were 2 purses, a blanket, mittens, a scarf, and 1 stocking. So that's the breakdown of what sort of items I made. I also broke it down by like who were my items for. So only 2 of the 21 items I made were for me, which is crazy. 16, however, of those 21 were for my immediate family, for my husband and my kids. And then 3 of the items were gifts for outside of our family, for other people. So that is just a little bit of information about my year of knitting. I did have like a super big gap, which we'll talk about probably as we go on. So the first thing I finished were these purple socks that I knit for my daughter. This yarn is Birch and Lily DK. So these are DK socks. I knit them with 36 stitches on a US 3 3.25 millimeter needle. I started these on December 27th of 2023 and finished them January 9th of 2024. Initially, I really did not like the way that they fit her when I made them it would have been last winter, over a year ago. However, I pulled these out and I was thinking, they're really dirty, I'm sorry. I was thinking of frogging them. But ever since I pulled them out to frog them, she has worn them like almost every single day. I had to tell her, you cannot wear these again until I film them. So she's happy now, and I guess I won't frog them. I don't think I have any other. I did like a 2x2 rib and folded down the cuff. I don't love that, but it's working well at the moment. So that is item number 1 that I finished, which was January 9th. The second thing that I finished in 2024 was a sweater for my husband, and it was the stick season sweater. So this is it. And it is super special. Oh, did I show you the front? I think I did, yeah. It is super special because my husband dyed this yarn himself. It was by far like the most complicated garment I had made in my knitting career, with both using hand-dyed yarn and a drop shoulder pattern. I'd only knit, like, this is a yoked sweater. So I'd done some yoked sweaters up until that point, but I hadn't, and some raglans, but I hadn't knit a drop shoulder. I hadn't knit with hand-dyed yarn. I was alternating skeins. So yeah, so This is the Stick Season Sweater by Rebecca Clow. I knit the size 5. We use hand-dyed DK BFL, and I use a US 5 3.75 millimeter needle. I'm gonna move my notes over here and see if I can keep better eye contact with you. And I started this on November 30th of 2023 and finished it January 20th of 2024. So all of December and most of January to knit this, almost 2 months. We absolutely love this sweater. I wish that the collar was like not so floppy, but I think I probably just need to put some elastic in, and I haven't done that yet. Also, I did go back later over the summer and add in like an extra 2 inches of stockinette before the ribbing, and I ripped the ribbing out and re-knit the whole thing. I wasn't doing sweater surgery like some people do. I did use a crochet pickup for the neckline, which I have linked on the Ravelry page for this garment, the tutorial that I followed. Yeah, and I felt even better about it when Meghan from A Naughty Mess podcast, she talks about Rebecca Clow's patterns as not being super beginner friendly. And I remember hitting some bumps as I was working through this pattern, and I was really grateful to hear her say that, because then I was like, oh, that's why it was a little bit trickier for me, probably, because I was definitely still very beginner in my knitting journey at this point. All right, one more, and then I'll probably have to pause and go. The third thing that I made in 2024 was a Musselburgh hat that I knit as a gift, so I don't have it with me. I should be able to pop in a picture or two. We also, the Musselburgh is a pattern by Isolde Teague. We also dyed, my husband also dyed up the yarn for this, and I knit it with 2 strands of fingering held together and a US 5 3.75 millimeter needles. I knit one of the adult sizes, probably like the adult medium, but I don't really remember. I had previously knit a Musselburgh in 2023 for my husband, and I just like copied that exact same. I did it exactly the same. I started on January 19th and I finished it on February 10th. So yeah, that was the third finished object of 2024. All right, I'm back and I'm ready to talk with you a little bit more about some of the things that I knit in 2024. Up next is something that was a very big labor of love, and this is a purple dress that I knit for my daughter. This is following the Carla's Dress pattern by Petite Knit. I knit the size 5/6, and the yarn is Hobie Dahlia Mixo. Dahlia might be the colorway, I'm not for sure. And it is a fingering weight yarn. I used US 3.25 millimeter needles. I started it in January, on January 20th of 2024. And this is where you're gonna see, oh, it's a little dirty, the big gap of in my knitting, because I did not finish this until July 1st. So between that early part of February and July, I didn't finish any projects. I didn't work on any knitting projects for a long time. I just did like a stockinette down on the skirt part. I just bound off in pattern because it is a little wide for her, and I thought as she grows, if I wanted to add length to the skirt, I still have more yarn, and that would be the easiest way. So it kind of rolls at the bottom. I think it looks cute. Just rolls a little bit at the bottom. And as she grows, if I want to add more length, I'll be able to do that without too much of a hassle. This yarn is sort of unfriendly to knit with. It is cotton, and it is 4 strands that are not twisted. It's not a twisted ply, it's like just a straight 4 straight, basically knitting with 4 threads at a time. So it poses a lot of challenges. but the finished object is beautiful and the yarn is wonderful and washes up really well. My daughter was really insistent because I have a t-shirt made out of this yarn and I had extra, and so she was like, I want a dress to match you. So we like matching still, so that's lots of fun. And that was a fun one. It still fits her really well. Then I knit 2 purses, one for each of my daughters. This is for the first one I made. This is the Mica Satchel pattern from Hannah Graham. And I was just using DK scraps of DK yarn that I had. I think the pattern had 3 sizes and I did the medium size. Most of this, the purple, is the Birch and Lily DK, Superwash DK. And then the gray is a Swish DK that I had. You can put on a button, but I didn't ever get around to putting on a button. I use a US 5 3.75 millimeter needle. Both of these, so this one is almost entirely Swish DK. They had toys in them this morning and I dumped them out. Just the purple is that Birch and Lily again, but the gray and the blue are both the Swish DK. Both of these I knit in 4 days, so I'm counting this as one thing. So I started the first one on July 10th and I finished it on the next day or 2 days later, and then I started the blue one and I finished that on July 14th. So between the 2 of them, just those few days of working on them, they are a big hit. My girls love them. And it was really fun to use up the scraps and see how many scraps I could use up as it was working and how far the yarn would go. I think that's all on those. They use them all the time. They're a big hit. This strap was too long for my daughter, so I tied it up, but it worked just fine. And they're long I-cords, but as I mentioned in a previous podcast, I don't really mind. It goes quickly. All right, next I made myself some socks. These ones I started in February 12th, and I didn't finish until July 21st. These are Hermione's Everyday Socks by Erica Luter. I did a 64 stitch count on a US 1 2.25 millimeter needle. They are not as tight as I would prefer on my foot, which I feel like is odd. And I'm learning this, I'm not a very experienced sock knitter, so I'm trying to learn. I think maybe just my gauge is looser than most people's because I do not have a small foot, but I ended up doing fewer rounds in the foot than I hear a lot of other people doing, and I wear US women's 10. So I don't have a small foot. So I think maybe just my gauge is looser, and maybe I should try knitting socks on a US 0. So we'll see. Or maybe I should just do ribbed socks. But I think, yeah. I do wear them. They fit well enough to wear. And I don't know with the ribbing, this has a pattern to it, a stitch pattern to it. And it's a lot harder to do it in the times when I enjoy knitting socks, like when I'm talking to somebody or when I'm putting my girls to bed. And so I think I really like a stockinette sock, and if I could get that to fit well, that would be better. But maybe I need to just enjoy the process of knitting a ribbed sock. Maybe I could do that. All right, after I finish that, that yarn is hand dyed. My husband gifted that to me for Christmas in 2023. And when I finished those, I had extras left over, and I knit a pair of baby socks for the baby that was in my belly at that time. So these are a little ribbed baby sock with the same yarn, same needle size. And I followed a stretchy baby socks pattern by Fabian Schulte. So that is another finished object. I did these, started them on July 22nd and finished on July 27th. So they didn't take too long. I did do a heel flap and gusset, which I think on that one, the pattern calls for a short row heel, and I did something different if I'm remembering correctly. So yeah, and my daughter did get to wear these, so that was really fun. They don't really fit her anymore though, now that she's 4 months. All right, we're cruising. Big breath. Next finished object was also for my baby. And that was this like scrappy onesie. I followed 2 of 1's or Alexandra Tavel's pattern Baby League onesie. And it had just come out and I really wanted to try it, but I didn't have, you know, anything that would be like the recommended yarn. So I used Swish DK because I could meet gauge with that. And I knit the 0 to 3 month size on a US 5 needle or a 3.75 millimeter. This worked really quickly, but that goes with stripes, you know, and especially if you're low on yarn. So the striping and being low on yarn and trying to figure out how to get it all to work. I knit this from July 30th to August 11th. I did size down my needle for the ribbing, which was different than the pattern recommended. And instead of doing like the loopy hooks that she recommended, I installed snaps. However, I had a hard time. I probably bought too cheap of materials. And now my snaps, like they don't even, like they stay in the garment. I had a hard time getting them to stay in the garment. So I like installed the snaps on this fabric and then sewed the fabric down. But the snaps don't even stay snapped very well. So my daughter's like wearing it and it's like falling off of her. So I can snap them all, but as she like wiggles, see, they just come undone. So I don't know if that is because the snaps weren't meant to be in this sort of fabric or because the ribbing is kind of dense for installing snaps, or it's just the quality of the snaps that I have. And I was pretty disappointed by that. Or maybe I just don't know how to install snaps, but I read the directions. It is sort of impractical. My daughter hasn't worn it much, some because of the snap issue, but also because it's like DK weight wool, but then short sleeves, which is sort of impractical for a baby. Kaity from Fruitful Hands made the same pattern, but she made hers like into a long sleeve sweater. And I was like, I should have done long sleeves. But that's all right. It was really fun to make, and it was fun to make it while anticipating our baby. And it brought a lot of joy at that time, and it used up scraps. So the next finished object was a big one, and that is my Felix cardigan. So here it is. Cardigans are hard to share. Should have grabbed a hanger like some of you guys have been teaching me. You can share your items better if you have a hanger. So this yarn is Hobie Tweed Delight in, I think the colorway is Chai Latte. I knit the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers on a 52.5 inch bust was the size I knit, using a US 10 6mm needles. I cast this on July 15th and bound it off on August 15th. So it was a really quick knit. It was my first cardigan, so for knitting. So my first time like picking up stitches for a button band, and I think it turned out really well. My friend made buttons for me. And the lace pattern is beautiful. The downside is, well, number one, this yarn was previously in a crocheted cardigan and I didn't love the fit. So I love this way more and I wear it all the time. But the yarn is also like super pilly and I can't keep up with it. So that is a real bummer for me, dealing with the constantness of all the pills. And every time I like look at it too much, I'm like, oh, I need to depill that. But it's a big sweater to spend a lot of time depilling all the time. Maybe if I did like a really good job once, but it keeps getting more pills. So I'm not sure that that would really cut it. All right, so yeah, this was like my biggest make for myself. The socks, the purple socks, the Hermione's Everyday Socks, and then this cardigan are the two things that I made for myself this year, that I finished for myself in 2024. So I think we're on to number 10, if I'm counting right. And this is it. I think this is the front. This is a Petite Souffle. The pattern is by Laura Penrose. I made the size 1 to 2 in Yarn Bee Bambootiful yarn on a US 4 3.5 millimeter needle. And I started this on August 15th and finished it on August 28th. And it's a huge hit. My daughter loves it. The ruffle was a pain. The yarn is cotton, is like bamboo cotton mix, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And so it is kind of heavy for the gauge. I have knit this yarn previously for myself, and it was a much more open gauge, and then the garment stretched a lot and I didn't like the way that it looked. So I found a gauge that I liked the yarn at, and then a pattern to match. And I think it turned out really well. And my daughter like loves wearing it. We have this cutest little picture of her when she put it on, and she was like showing it off, and oh, so cute. She was so excited. The energy just like pops through the picture. I did modify it. The pattern has like a little button closure at the back, but I just actually ended up closing that up. I knit it flat so that I could do it, but then I went back and closed it up so I could do ribbing for the neckline. Yeah, so it was a little bit hard on my hands to knit this yarn at such a tight gauge. But, you know, a good way to use up the yarn that I had. Then I knit some more baby socks. This is the Perfect Newborn Socks pattern by Tabitha Gandy. And I think it's only one size. So it's a newborn size. This was some of our like scrap hand-dyed yarn where we were trying to get it to look a certain way and it didn't. But I thought it looked really cute for a baby. So fingering weight yarn on a US 1 needle. It has a little bit of a cable pattern. I started these on August 27th and finished them on August 31st. Yeah, cute little baby socks that no longer fit my baby. And then I jumped into, let me grab the rest of the stuff. Then I jumped into knitting my sweaters, my daughters, their sweaters for the year. So I wanted to knit them sibling sweaters. And I think this is the one I did first. And the sibling sweater is a pattern, another pattern by Laura Penrose. This is probably the smallest size, which is like a 1-2 again. And it traditionally only uses 2 colors, but my daughters wanted 4 colors. So we wove in a lot of ends. This is Cascade 220 Superwash. The colors are deep teal, frosted almond, something violet, and berry pink. And I knit it on a US 4 3.5 millimeter needle. This particular sweater I cast on August 30th and bound off September 9th. And it fits her wonderfully. It is like perfect for her. It's adorable. It fits perfect. I did have a little trouble, like you can see here, and I'm not sure what I did wrong, but I probably wove in like, I mean, each stripe is two ends, plus the sleeves count different. And, you know, each stripe on the sleeves is 2 more ends. So like 60 plus ends per sweater. And I had some of the ends pop through after I cut them. So I'm not really sure why that is. And it happened on both sweaters, sadly. But this is sibling sweater number 1. And then I'm gonna jump to sibling sweater number 2, skipping over one thing I finished in between. So this is the second one. She wanted pink on all of her ends, but it didn't, the cuffs followed the pattern for the teal, so we did that. The stripe pattern is opposite order, but it's the same colors. And this is the size 3/4. I should have knit her a 5/6. I ended up like extending the arms, extending the body, and it doesn't drape as much. I was worried about having too much positive ease. This one has more positive ease like the pattern recommends. And this one has less, and I wish I had just knit her a bigger size. She also like grew an inch while I was making this from September 10th to September 30th. So kids will do that to you. It still fits her well. She still loves it. And with this one, there was a lot of drama because I had to extend the sleeves. I ended up basically using scraps of this violet color. I like dug through my scrap jar to find enough yarn to make the sleeves long enough because I had used up all the purple that I had. All right. The one I finished in between those two are some mittens for my daughter. I knit these using the Tin Can Knits World's Simplest Mittens pattern. I was off gauge, so I kind of followed the adult small pattern. The yarn is Cascade 220 Superwash using a US 6 4mm needle. I started these on September 6th and finished them on the 14th. Early this January, I knit the baby mittens with a cord to connect them through the snowsuit. And my daughter wanted me to add a cord onto hers, so these just like hang in her coat and she doesn't have to think about them at all. I don't know if you can tell, but the cord is cleaner than the mittens because she wears them a lot. So yeah, these are her mittens for the year, and she's been loving those. Started on September 6th, finished on September 14th. They are like a bit long here. I could have probably shortened it, and the color work made them tighter. This is my like learning about my color work tension era, because that was a bit rough. But she loves them. I think they look a bit weird, but she loves them and wears them all the time. All right, then I have a crochet project. I crocheted it's also dirty. Nothing got washed for this. Not specifically for this. Things get washed. Nothing got specifically washed for this video. This is the Rainbow Ripple Baby Blanket by Celeste Young. I used Red Heart Super Saver in like a purple ombre. And I just knit it or crocheted it until I didn't have any more yarn, or not enough yarn to do another round, because the rounds get bigger as you go. So we're loving this. We're using it, obviously. I used an H hook or a 5mm hook. Started it on October 4th and finished it on October 10th. This was like I was working on this with my baby in my arms. So pretty special to have a fun project like that to make for her. And then I made her a sweater. So I knit Micah's Raglan sweater, which is a pattern by Hannah Graham. And I knit the smallest size, the baby size, which with Cascade 220 Superwash yarn and a US 5 or 3.75mm needle. I added, the pattern doesn't have the pop of color, but I added that because I thought it would be kind of cute to match her sisters a little bit better. Then most of this is in the Frosted Almond color, and it has a cable at the raglan, which is super pretty. It is like a pain to have to do a raglan stitch and do some purling every round, but it is absolutely beautiful, and she can, like, it still fits her, you know? So it's fun to have her able to wear that. So that is Micah's raglan sweater. We love that. I will hopefully, maybe even this next year, make this sweater for my older daughters as well in different yarn, whatever I have. So that they can match with the pattern. It was fun. We are getting down to it. I have a few more things to talk about, but many of these I don't have with me anymore. So at that point, I used the scraps from this blanket and crocheted my baby a Easy Breezy Rib Beanie by the Turtle Trunk in the baby small size, using an US 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. It just took 2 days. I'm not sure if I told you. I started this on October 23rd and finished it on November 11th. The hat I just did on November 11th and November 12th. Nope, on November 12th and 13th. And it was just too bulky for my baby. That worsted weight yarn, crocheted to ribbing. We wore it a few times, but it just wasn't working out well for us. So I don't even know where I put it because it wasn't something that we were using regularly. And then I have another gift knit for someone outside of my family. I had a friend from church who was moving out of state, and I knit her the Sophie shawl by Petite knit. It's about the medium size. I just kind of knit to use up the 200 grams of yarn I had. I used Knit Picks Swish Worsted in the color Seaweed. And I started that on November 11th and finished it on December 3rd. It was just like a really sweet gift to be able to give, and I'm hoping that she's getting good use out of it. My next finished object I do have here, and that is the sweater I knit for my husband this year, which is the Metamorphic pattern by Lisa K. Ross. I knit him the size large in Cascade 220 Superwash on a US 6 4mm needles. This is more of me learning about colorwork tension because it has colorwork just in the middle of the body and the sleeves. The pattern calls for the collar to be the same color as the top, but I made that modification myself. The rest of it follows like the colorwork of the original pattern. Got something in my eye. I started this on September 14th and finished it on December 16th. I am a little bit unhappy with how my colorwork tension pulls in at the body, but my husband doesn't mind. He loves it and he wears it often. And he used it to replace a different sweater in his wardrobe that was wearing out. Not one that was handmade, just one that he'd had for a while. So I'm glad to be able to keep making for him because he's always very grateful to receive that. And then I had been asked to knit a sweater for my friend to gift to someone, and we chose together the Zipper Sweater Light Men by Petite Knit pattern, and I used Swish DK in the color Pinecone Heather. I knit the size small, and I used US 5 3.75mm needles. Started on November 14th and finished on December 16th. Because I was making it for someone else and I couldn't try it on him, I was like trying to block it a lot as I went. It took a little bit longer, and it had a lot of like kind of fiddly parts to the finishing, to actually installing the zipper, which I had never done before. So that was a little bit extra work, but I think it turned out pretty nice. The zipper wasn't as nice as I'd like it to be, but it's definitely, definitely wearable. And I think that he likes it. Then I knit a stocking. I knit this stocking, follows the Silent Knits Christmas Stocking pattern by Anna Burns. I did modify some of the colorwork charts because everything was like a 12-stitch repeat, and I didn't want it to be like columns all the way down. But that's just me being picky. It has, I think, 72 stitches, and I also modified the heel. I used a Knit Picks Wool of the Andes worsted in a variety of colors, which I cannot name. I used a US 8 5mm needle. I started this on December 17th and finished it on December 23rd. I used Magic Loop because that's what I use. But I had a lot of trouble with the stranded color work causing issues at the loop portion of it. So I purchased a 16-inch circular to knit my next stocking with. This is after blocking. I've blocked this. I do still have like all of the ends to weave in also, like so many ends to weave in, and I've just kind of set this one aside. I did cast on, I want to knit stockings for each of my children this year. That would be 5. This one is 1 if I decide it's good enough, but I've cast on a second one, and I'm using the 16-inch circular needle, and that seems to be helping the color work turn out better. So I'm gonna see when I'm weaving in ends as I go also with that one. When I'm done with that one and I've blocked it, I'm gonna kind of compare and see what I think and then make adjustments going forward with a plan. That's my plan right now anyway. Like, look at this poor little snowman. So that was the last thing I knit in 2024. Then I picked up some of the projects that have been set aside while I was doing Christmas-ish knitting. And yeah, I've been working hard on getting some of those things off the needles this month, and I've been sharing those and will continue to share those on my regular podcast videos. But that is what I knit this year, and I'm really excited. Thank you for watching, and God bless. Bye.